5 cold cases solved decades later. Back in 1957, a 7-year-old boy named Jack McCullough went missing from Sycamore, Illinois. She was last seen walking home from school on a December afternoon, carrying her books and wearing a plaid coat. Witnesses reported seeing a man in a black car near the school, but no one could make out his face. Maria's body was found months later in a wooded area about 100 miles away. The case went cold almost immediately. There were no solid leads, no forensic evidence that could be processed with the technology of the time, and no real suspects. Her family spent decades wondering what happened, holding on to hope that someone, somewhere, knew something. It wasn't until 2011, over 50 years later, that investigators reopened the case. They started going through old records, re-interviewing people who were alive back then, and cross-referencing timelines. That's when they came across a name that kept appearing in the background: Jack Daniel McCullough. He had been a person of interest early on, but back then, he had an alibi. He claimed he was in another state at the time of Maria's disappearance. For decades, that alibi held. But when investigators dug deeper, they found inconsistencies. Phone records didn't match up. Travel logs were off. And more disturbingly, other people who knew him back then started coming forward with stories about his behavior around children. Stories that had been ignored or dismissed at the time. In 2012, McCullough was arrested and charged with Maria's kidnapping and murder. He was 73 years old by then. The trial was intense. Prosecutors laid out a timeline that placed him in Sycamore the day Maria disappeared. They brought in witnesses who remembered seeing him near the school. They presented evidence that his alibi had been fabricated. And they painted a picture of a man who had spent his entire life evading consequences. McCullough was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. But here's where it gets messy. Just a few years later, in 2016, his conviction was overturned. New evidence had surfaced, evidence that suggested he might not have been in Illinois at the time after all. The state's attorney decided not to retry him, and he was released. To this day, the case remains technically unsolved again. But for a brief moment, it seemed like Maria's family had finally gotten answers. The whole thing is a reminder of how complicated these old cases can be. Even when you think you've solved it, new information can flip everything upside down. And for the families involved, that uncertainty never really goes away. This one happened in 1971 in Seattle. A man calling himself Dan Cooper, though the media mistakenly reported it as D.B. Cooper, hijacked a Boeing 727 mid-flight. He handed a note to a flight attendant claiming he had a bomb. He demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. The plane landed in Seattle, the passengers were released, and Cooper got his money. Then he ordered the crew to take off again, heading toward Mexico. Somewhere over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper opened the rear stairs of the plane and jumped out into the night with the cash strapped to him. He was never seen again. For decades, the case was one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in American history. The FBI followed thousands of leads, interviewed countless suspects, and even found some of the ransom money buried along the Columbia River in 1980. But they could never definitively identify who Cooper was or what happened to him. Then in 2011, a woman named Marla Cooper came forward with a story. She claimed her uncle, Lynn Doyle Cooper, was D.B. Cooper. She said that on Thanksgiving weekend in 1971, her uncle and another family member went on a quote-unquote trip and came back injured. She remembered overhearing conversations where they talked about something that had gone wrong. She also provided a photo of her uncle from around that time, and the resemblance to the FBI sketch was striking. The FBI investigated her claims, but never officially confirmed them. Lynn Doyle Cooper died in 1999, so there was no way to question him directly. The agency eventually closed the case in 2016 without solving it, stating they needed to focus resources elsewhere. But for many people who followed the case, Marla Cooper's story was the closest thing to a real answer they'd ever gotten. Whether or not Lynn Doyle Cooper was actually D.B. Cooper, we'll probably never know for sure. But the fact that someone came forward after all those years with a plausible explanation shows that even the most famous cold cases can have new life breathed into them decades later. And honestly, part of me thinks the FBI knows more than they're letting on. They just don't want to admit they were chasing ghosts for 40 years. In 1991, a 32-year-old woman named Angie Dodge was found murdered in her apartment in Idaho Falls. She had been sexually assaulted and stabbed multiple times. It was a brutal crime that shook the small community. Police zeroed in on a suspect pretty quickly, a young man named Christopher Tapp. He was 20 years old at the time, and after hours of interrogation, he confessed to being involved in the crime. The problem was, his confession didn't match the evidence. DNA found at the scene didn't belong to him. His story kept changing, and there were no witnesses placing him at the apartment. But the police pushed forward anyway, and in 1998, Tapp was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. For years, he insisted he was innocent. His family fought for him. Advocacy groups took up his case. But nothing changed. He sat in prison for over 2 decades while the real killer walked free. Then in 2017, investigators decided to take another look at the DNA evidence. They ran it through a genealogical database, the same kind of database that would later be used to catch the Golden State Killer. And they got a hit. The DNA belonged to a man named Brian Lee Dripps. He had been living in Idaho Falls the entire time, less than a mile from Angie Dodge's apartment. When confronted, Dripps confessed. He admitted to killing Angie and said he had acted alone. He had no connection to Christopher Tapp at all. In 2019, Tapp was officially exonerated and released from prison. He had spent 20 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. Dripps was arrested, charged, and eventually sentenced to life in prison. The case is a perfect example of how tunnel vision and coerced confessions can destroy lives. But it's also a testament to how far forensic technology has come. Without that genealogical database, Tapp might still be in prison today, and Angie Dodge's real killer might never have been caught. It makes you wonder how many other people are sitting in prison right now for crimes they didn't commit. How many cold cases could be solved if we just had the resources and the willingness to look at them again? This one goes back to 1996 in Boulder, Colorado. 6-year-old John Bennett Ramsey was found dead in the basement of her family's home the day after Christmas. She had been strangled and suffered a skull fracture. The case became a media circus almost immediately. The Ramsey family, particularly her parents John and Patsy, were suspected by many people, including law enforcement. But they were never charged. The investigation was messy from the start. The crime scene was contaminated, evidence was mishandled, and the police seemed more focused on the family than on following other leads. For years, the case remained unsolved, and the public was divided. Some believed the parents were involved, others thought it was an intruder. Then in 2006, a man named John Mark Carr confessed to killing John Bonet. He was arrested in Thailand and extradited to the US. The media went wild. Finally, after 10 years, it seemed like the case might be solved. But then DNA evidence proved Carr had nothing to do with the crime. He was released, and the case went cold again. Fast forward to 2016. Using advanced DNA testing, investigators were able to create a more detailed profile of the unknown male DNA found on John Bonet's clothing. This DNA didn't match anyone in the Ramsey family. It pointed to an intruder. In 2008, the Boulder District Attorney officially cleared the Ramsey family of any involvement, issuing a public apology. But the case still isn't solved. The DNA profile sits in databases, waiting for a match. Some investigators believe genealogical DNA testing, the same method used in other cold cases, could finally crack it. But so far, nothing. Patsy Ramsey died in 2006, never seeing her name fully cleared in the court of public opinion. John Ramsey is still alive and still advocating for the case to be solved. He wants the DNA tested using modern genealogical methods. But so far, the Boulder Police Department hasn't taken that step. The John Bonet Ramsey case is a reminder that sometimes cold cases aren't solved because of a lack of evidence. They're unsolved because of a lack of will. The technology exists. The DNA is there. But for whatever reason, the people in charge haven't made it a priority. And that's the most frustrating part of all. In 1988, a 12-year-old girl named Michaela Garecht was kidnapped from a grocery store parking lot in Hayward, California. She and a friend had ridden their bikes to the store. When they came out, Michaela's bike had been moved. As she went to pick it up, a man grabbed her, threw her into a car, and drove off. Her friend watched it happen, but couldn't do anything to stop it. The case haunted investigators for decades. There were reported sightings over the years. People claimed to have seen Michaela in different parts of the country. Her mother, Sharon Merson, never stopped searching. She became an advocate for missing children and kept Michaela's case in the public eye. But for 32 years, there were no real answers. Then in 2020, something changed. A man named David Emery Mish was already in custody for an unrelated murder when investigators decided to take a closer look at him. Mish had a long criminal history, including charges related to child abduction. He had been on the radar before, but there was never enough evidence to connect him to Michaela's disappearance. Using new forensic techniques and re-examining old evidence, investigators were able to link Mish to the crime. In 2020, he was charged with Michaela's kidnapping and murder. He has pleaded not guilty, and as of now, the case is still working its way through the court system. Michaela's body has never been found. Her mother passed away in 2021 without ever knowing exactly what happened to her daughter. But at least there's finally someone being held accountable. The case is still technically open, but for the first time in over 30 years, there's movement. And that's something. It's a bittersweet ending. Sharon Merson fought for decades to find answers, and she came so close. But she didn't live to see justice fully served. It's a reminder that for the families of victims in cold cases, time is always running out. Every year that passes is another year without closure, another year of wondering, another year of pain. And even when cases are solved, the relief is often mixed with grief for all the time that was lost. So here's my question for you. Do you think more resources should be put into solving cold cases? Or should law enforcement focus on current crimes? I mean, I get both sides. On one hand, Families deserve answers no matter how much time has passed. On the other hand, there are new crimes happening every day that need attention. It's a tough call. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you all think. And hey, if you made it this far, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got more stories like this coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss them. All right, that's it for now. Stay safe out there.